I think it was Ian who's just arrived. Yeah, we're just recording this session now, so if you don't want your face on the recording, feel free to turn your camera off. So this is kind of an update of where we're at so far, just repeating myself for the recording. Hopefully, in an ideal world, you would have completed your baseline surveys, made a good start on modules 1 or 2 on the Brightspace platform, hopefully looked at the current career-related learning in your school, and ideally created some kind of vision statement of where you would like the careers-related learning to be, or what you would like to change about it. Again, ideally talk to your SLT about this and created a draft of your 4 strategic objectives. Now, unofficially, I'm going to say up to 4, because if you have less than 4, I think that's fine. And hopefully generated some ideas for what you might like to do in your priority project. Now, we'll have time for questions on these in a moment. I'm just going to move on now. Hopefully you realise these are the kind of 4 areas that this whole project is around. These are the strategic objectives that we want to look at. So it's about reducing bias and challenging stereotypes in young people, linking careers to the curriculum, increasing meaningful employer encounters, and engaging parents and carers. And the idea is that your strategic objectives, however many of those you have, link to those 4 themes in some way. Now, you can just pick one of them. It might be that you just want to look at reducing bias and challenging stereotypes, and you want to create some kind of program that does that. It might be that you just want to think more about careers when you're doing your project work in school and work out how you can link what you're doing in the classroom to the wider world of work, and how we can do that. It certainly does need to include at some point some kind of employer encounters. That is one of the requirements of the project, and I'll talk a bit more about that later and how we can potentially engage parents and carers in that as well. Now, hopefully you saw this slide in the training last week. So this is what we hope you'll get to by the end of the project. Hopefully by the end of it, you will produce some kind of strategy document which shows where your career-related learning is at the moment and what you want it to look like in the future. Now, strategy document is a bit of a scary word, but it doesn't have to be big. Like, it could just be one side of A4, which says, this is what we do at the moment. We'd like to improve it by doing this, and this is how we're going to do it. So don't think this has to be super complex, because it really doesn't. We can keep it simple. We're looking for some kind of high-level long-term plan about how you want to link careers-related learning in your school, some kind of short-term plan about how you're going to do that, and then we want some kind of programme of activity for pupils. Now, that, again, doesn't have to be loads of work. It sounds like it is. It might be a case of just thinking that anytime you get a visitor into your school for whatever reason, you might ask them to talk about their job, what they do, how they got into it. And the same if you're doing any kind of school trip, say, for example, you're taking your kids to the zoo, then when you talk to anyone at the zoo, you get them to talk about their job and how they got into it. So it's really a lot about linking to what you're already doing rather than having to create a whole load of new things. Now, again, I'm going to keep going through, but we will stop for questions when I've gone through the slides. Okay, so then what we need to do is work out what your priority project is going to be. And just want to highlight these bits here. It's a short, unassessed project that links to your strategic objectives. So again, this doesn't have to be massive. It can be a short something. It's just how we're going to think about putting those strategic objectives into practice. How can we make some of this stuff happen? And that's going to happen between module 4 and module 6. So that's next year, and there's 6 months to complete it. So what we want you to be doing at the moment for that is just thinking about what ideas you might want to do for that. And the next seminar does focus on that a little bit more. So you certainly don't have to have that all together at this point. Now I'm going to stop sharing because the next bit comes later. So welcome to all the people who've joined us. Now that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so questions, you can put your hand up or you can put it in the chat, or if you're feeling really brave, you can shout out your questions, because there's not that many of us here today. Any questions so far? No, that's actually quite good, because I'll just believe that everyone is totally happy with all that. So question again, there's not many of us here, so maybe we can just have a open discussion about, how do you feel like it's going so far? How is anyone doing with this stuff? Has anyone managed to think about a vision statement or thought about strategic objectives so far, or a priority project? Anyone there yet? And if you're not, that's okay.
Yes. So in my school, I've had a chat with our SLT, and I've just shared what I feel our priority targets would be moving forward. They've agreed and approved those, and now starting to plan ahead for that project. So our first priority is going to be actually launching it within the school and making a bit of a big thing of it. So we are starting to plan an aspirations week for the end of the spring term, where we're going to launch careers and aspirations, just trying to get it at the forefront of the children's minds. And this side of Christmas, I'm starting to set up an action team within our school, which is a group of pupils who are going to help me plan that, so that they then have ownership of that moving forward.
Oh, that's really good. So was there any of those, you know, those 4 strategic objectives, those 4 themes, was there any one that you thought was going to be particularly suited to your school?
Yeah, so the main one that we're focusing on the moment is to look at engaging parents, because we want to talk about those gender stereotypes. We generally feel is quite positive, as in that they aren't really much an issue, but we are trying to engage parents and make those links within our curriculum, because the children are very good at saying what they want to be, but they don't necessarily make those links into how they get there. And I think that's something that we really want to focus on, is showing how our curriculum, how the lessons that they're learning will then lead to those aspirations, those careers they want to get to in the future. But I think that part of it is going to come, that'll be in the next academic year. We're about to undergo quite a few curriculum changes due to our Academy Trust at the moment. So we feel at the moment that isn't going to be a priority, because we need to get the new curriculum in place before we start dropping in links to it.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
So we're going to work on the parental engagement and try and get some of them in to talk about their aspirations. Hopefully, we're aiming for that aspiration week. We want to start planning it now, so we can get them booked in to come in and talk to the children. And we feel that might open their minds a bit, because it's people they know.
Yeah.
They can sort of find out a bit more that way.
And that's it. And I think using your parental network is a really good idea. I mean, this is going to depend on your school, because I was talking to someone at the seminar last week, and they were just saying their parents are just not engaged. And I know that's going to depend on your school and your situation, but actually, if you can use the parents to come in and talk about their own jobs, then you've almost got people who are already invested in your school, if you see what I mean. If their kids are there, that's often already an investment there. So yeah, let's use them as well as other contacts to get in and trying to inspire the young people. Natasha, just got your comment there about time. Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is keep it simple. It doesn't have to be super complex. I know, particularly in primary, time is an issue. We were having a conversation while people were just coming in about Christmas play rehearsals and how they're taking up all the time in the world at the moment, and it's things like that obviously I know it's hard to fit in extra stuff. So keep it simple for yourself, make it achievable. Don't set some kind of goal which is going to take hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, we can make a difference. It's small changes that can still make a difference to the kids and what they experience. And Fiona, thanks for keeping trying to get in. I know it's hard work, isn't it? It always it always does updates, doesn't it, when you're trying to get into something? I find that Zoom does that to me all the time. And Ian, thanks for popping in as well. That's good. Anyone else want to talk about how they're getting on so far? Anyone thought about vision statements or strategic objectives for their school?
We've I've had kind of vision okayed by SLT now.
Brilliant.
So we're pretty happy with our curriculum at the moment, but we're going to focus on launching this through science, and the idea will be there'll be a link to a industry kind of professional tied to a market in Plymouth that will have a meaningful interaction with the children throughout the course of the unit. So we're looking at 3 possible stages within the unit. So it will either be at the launch, where they can have a Q&A with the person. It will be when they're designing. We do prove-it statements towards the end to assess their understanding. So it'll be around that stage where they're kind of designing what that's going to be, or it will be when they're delivering their final project. And we want wherever possible those people to be challenging stereotypes. So you know, a female firefighter, or you know, just from the baselines that we did around stereotypes. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be fair, but there were a few things that came up, especially in upper key stage 2. So that's where we're at. So now the bit that I'm at now is I'm going to start looking at the knowledge organisers for half term 4. And then the idea is we're going to have a little careers fair at the end of half term 3, and then launch this meaningful interaction within the knowledge within the units in half term 4. So I just need to start gathering don't know how many people, 6 people now that are willing to be part of it. So that's where we're up to.
Brilliant, thank you. I am going to talk to you about employer contacts in a little bit, and some ways I can help you with that. That's kind of the next slide that I stopped before I got to. Bryony, just reading yours. Heart of the Southwest is probably, yeah, that would be us. Requesting a STEM ambassador. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that in a minute as well. But yeah, it sounds great looking at skills in the Southwest. Hopefully you all got that labour market information thing I put together last week. Hopefully that was helpful, because I mean, we do a lot of work on this kind of stuff, and I was just thinking it's probably easier if I just put some stuff together rather than expecting each one of you to research it and come up with the same thing. So hopefully that tells you things about the, you know, the growth sectors in the Southwest, the biggest employers in the Plymouth area. Oh, someone else is coming. And I'm guessing that there wouldn't have been too many surprises there as you live in the city, but hopefully that was quite interesting as well. Just reading Frankie's message there. We're an annual careers fair. Yeah, brilliant. Parents talk about their job. Yeah, brilliant. Get them to challenge stereotypes. That's a huge thing. It was interesting what you were saying, Ian, about how you could tell a difference in upper key stage 2. You wonder when those ideas get set, don't you? It's like, why at that point do children already have some kind of ideas about what jobs are for men and what jobs are for women, kind of thing. But yeah, challenging stereotypes is always a good one. Welcome, Bridget. Anyone else want to share about how they're getting on so far? I know some of you can't access it very well. Oh, Fiona's gone. If not, I'll go back to my slides and what else I was going to suggest. Joe's writing something now. Oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to move my my slides on and explain a little bit more about how I can support you. Just working 2 screens at once. There we go. Okay, this is on the wrong page, but I'm just going to move that on. Okay, so different ways that I can support you, particularly with employer encounters. Labour market information, hopefully you've already got that. I'm going to show you our Padlet in a minute that I've put together for this project, which you may or may not have seen. I'm putting everything I can that might be helpful on there for you. At the moment, we work as a careers hub. We also already work with several employers over the Plymouth area. What I'm doing at the moment is contacting them and asking them if they're happy to be approached by the teachers on this project about potentially coming in to the school and talking to the students, mostly about about their job, what they do, how they get into it. Ask them if they possibly can to bring in something fun to look at and to see. And I'm collating that information at present. I've got a few already. I've got Babcock, they're really good. They do loads of interactive stuff with schools already. Theatre Royal Plymouth, I've got a law firm. I've got the Real Ideas place at the Market Hall. There's more coming in all the time. I've got a construction company, and I'm chasing some contacts from the NHS. So once all that's together and I've got permission, I can send you those contacts of people who've said they're potentially willing to come in. They will need to be asked. They're not always going to be able to do it because they've got their own business needs as well, but you've got permission to ask them. Top tips would be, if you want anyone to come in, try and give them as much notice as possible. Businesses can't tend to do something quickly. They usually need at least a month in advance. And if you can possibly be flexible with days and times, that's going to help as well. Now, that depends on your school setup, but give them as much flexibility as you can, and then they're more likely to be able to come in to support you. Also here to help you find your own employer contacts. We've already said about asking parents, your governors as well. They're also potentially invested in your school. So why not get a request out to those as well? STEM ambassadors have already been mentioned, and I'm going to show you their website in a minute. And I've got some other resources that I've mentioned on Padlet. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to open up a couple of web pages to show you. When you've got too many windows open. Right. Okay, and I'm going to share the screen again. Right, this is our Padlet, which is basically like a bit of an online notice board where I can put lots of information. So it's like somewhere where I can put everything quickly that you can go on and click to. So what I've got on here is some labour market information. There's the things I've sent you. There's also links to different websites that can be useful. Career Pilot is actually set up for secondary schools, but what this one's really good for is if someone says, I want to be a vet, how do I do that? You can easily look up that information on Career Pilot. And you can say, well, this is how you become a vet. You have to do this university course, this, this, and this. So there's a lot of information on there. I've also linked to Devon Your Futures, which is actually a secondary resource, but it's for students with additional needs. So it's actually written in very simple language. So that might be useful as well. I'll just click on that and then it will open up the web page. And again, this will tell you about jobs, the largest employers locally. This is Devon. It's created for Devon, so it is quite local information. You can also find out about jobs on here. There's lots of different jobs that are available. You can look at sectors. It's worth having a little look at sectors there. I helped to create this website, so I should know what's on it. So if you want to know about jobs in computing, technology, you can click on that. And there's a little audio bar. There's information, how the sector's gonna grow, how to get into that job, and things like that. So that's useful as well. I linked to some of the other Plymouth data that was in the end of the labour market information. Resources, I've tried to link here to other organisations who also have resources that you can use with your students. There's Institute of Engineering Technology, Primary Futures, Primary Engineer. Again, look at this at your own leisure, and there should be STEM ambassadors on here somewhere. There we go. I don't know if you guys have heard about STEM Ambassador Programme before or not. These are volunteers from all over the country, but I know there are a lot in Plymouth because I used to run the programme a few years ago, so I trained quite a lot of them. These are volunteers who work in STEM-related industries who are DBS checked and ready to come into your school to try and inspire students about STEM-related jobs. Now, how you get one of those in is you have to create a free profile. It is all free on the STEM Learning website, and then you can request a STEM ambassador. Let's see if it'll still let me sign into this. My account might have been closed by now, but we'll have a look. Oh, there you go. So what we can do is you can put on a request on here to say, I would like someone to come into my school on this date to come into my students and talk about engineering or electricity or energy, or just talk about your job and how you use science in your job. My top tips from having worked on these programs is keep your request as wide as possible. If you put a request to say, please can someone come in at Tuesday at 10 o'clock to talk about nuclear fusion to year one students, you're not going to get a lot of response. But if you say, can someone come in at an agreed time in February to talk about how they use the science they learned at school in their job, then you're more likely to find someone. So less is more, that kind of thing. If you can be flexible, it will help you. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you about the Padlet. I'm going to keep adding stuff to there. I've got the seminar slides on there as well from the last seminar, the recording of seminar 1, the newsletter. There's a few bits of evaluation. There's some stickers actually that have been created that you can print out and give to your children if you want to, about having a careers activity. I'm not quite sure how easy it is to print off, but you're welcome to have a go. And there's just a few other little assets that I'll keep popping on there. But I have sent you the link already, but I'll send it again. Do look on there for information. So in this resources section, I've also got links to NEON, who are part of Engineering UK. There's resources on there. Some of these, if they will let people come into your school, some of them are paid, and I've tried to highlight which ones they are because most people don't have money. STEM ambassadors are definitely free. A lot of these other things like Met Office education resources, they are basically resources that you can use in the classroom rather than people coming in. But again, if you're doing a topic on weather or climate or anything like that, it's worth having a look at things like that because they can be, there's some really good resources on there. And there are plenty of STEM ambassadors at the Met Office as well. So, you know, if you want someone to come in from there, you're welcome. I'll Padlet link in the chat. Yeah, I'll do that right now. There you go, Padlet link in the chat. So that is, yeah, I will keep that updated and I'll keep sending you the link, but that's hopefully my way to get you all the information that you need from that. Let me check what else I was going to do. Now, because there's not many of you here, I was going to basically give you about 20 minutes to talk in small groups about how things are going so far, but we probably don't need that. So is there any other questions come up or things you want to check or ask about or anything like that? Oh, got something coming in the chat, lovely. Because the idea of this session was to just give you a chance to chat to each other about how things are going and share any ideas or share any fears. Like if anyone's particularly like worried about it or thinks they're still not quite sure what's going on, then please do feel free to let me know, and I'll try and help with that. We don't want this to be something that ends up being a burden, if you see what I mean. We just want it to be something that you actually enjoy doing and enjoy seeing the how the effect it's having on the students and how it's helping them. Has anyone had any other ideas on how they could get employers into school or what they'd like to do with them. That's fine. Another thing that I think I mentioned this before, depending on which meetings you've been to, but I know some schools, what they're trying to do is have a day when people come in dressed as what they want to be when they grow up, which is actually quite a fun thing to do, and you could do a lot with that. And some people were having like taking photos or saying like, this is what I'm going to be when I'm older. It's like things that really wouldn't work in secondary school, you know, but it would be a lot of fun to just maybe make a display board of people come in dressed up. Maybe you could do it twice, or maybe you do it before you start the project and then do it afterwards and see if there's been a change. That might be a very interesting way to kind of evaluate the program. And if you get people coming in dressed as Iron Man, that's fine. You know, you can talk about what do you think you do, what qualifications do you think Iron Man has, or anything like that. You know, that's a STEM related job, isn't it? So anything like that. But has anyone else got any other kind of ideas about how they want to get employers in or what they want employers to do?
I think generally the employers that I've been speaking to about the project are really keen to get involved. So I'm hoping that nobody's going to have any problems kind of getting employer contacts. They're really on board with it and really love the idea. So I bet you probably do loads of you do that stuff already. Do you get employers in, or do you get different businesses in, and always, like you say, through parents or whatever anyway? Yeah. I could see Bridget nodding.
Yeah, we do. We have a visitors assembly every week, so we do have a variety of people who sort of come into that. But we want to extend upon that really, because we feel it's quite a narrow subset of people who come in.
Sure. Yeah, totally understand that. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what this project's all about, isn't it, Tony? Just kind of,
definitely
building on what you've got already.
I think what I mentioned earlier as well that other people have picked up on, I mean, this was not my idea, someone else said it and I thought it was good, so I stole it, is there's that whole thing about actually every time you do a trip somewhere, get the people that you're talking to or who are showing you around to just talk about their jobs as well. If you have a visitor in school who's actually, I don't know, if you have an author coming in talking about their book, then get them to also talk about what skills they use in their job. And do you know what I mean? It's just using what you've already got. And maybe try and use those governors as well, see if they've got links.
And I think look out for little projects. Somebody might have already said this, so sorry if they have.
Fine, don't worry.
We did some work with the box, and it was like a Mission Mammoth project is what they were running, but that exposed our children to a whole range of different occupations, because we had engineers involved, there were artists involved, architectures, and actually we went along to it because we thought that sounded interesting, but we didn't actually appreciate the full range of employers who are actually going to be there. So little projects like that can suddenly open up to a whole range of different employment opportunities as well.
Brilliant. And
I've got a question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, ask your question. Go for it.
How would you go about trying to? Because if you go on, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that if I'm wanting people that are not typical of the employment, but in a place like Plymouth where diversity isn't huge, like I was just thinking as you were talking, like if I'm going to go on one of these websites and say, I would like somebody to come in and talk about their role as a scientist within, this area, and then like a white man gets in touch with me and goes, no, not you, no, so like, have you got any suggestions for how to kind of broach that?
I would say in the advert, say we're talking about challenging stereotypes. Can you come in and explain how you've gone against stereotypical, do you know what I mean? Do it like that. How have you done that? How have you? And actually there's loads of there's Women in STEM campaign. Like there's a lot of females with STEM jobs that want to come, but again, more diversity than that as well. But if you say we're trying to show diversity in STEM careers, then hopefully that will they can read between the lines and say, I don't want a white man to come and talk about. I mean, it's not that you can't have them as well. Do you know what I mean? It's good, but I know what you mean. You don't want to say, we're going to challenge stereotypes, so we're going to have all the stereotypical people come in and talk about their job. That's So especially it's how you word it, I think.
Well, I think just in terms of launching it, it'd be great to have, like, you know, I've got this picture in my head of what it's going to be like, and then, you know, what it could be. And we've had so we did Widening Horizons with our year 5s every year, and I mean, so far I'd say everybody that we've met when we've been out has been like what you'd imagine. Like no stereotypes have been challenged whatsoever. I'd say the furthest it's gone is that we've met a few female marine biologists, but yeah, it's just and whether it's even possible around here, I don't know. I'd like one of the children in my class was saying the other day, like, did I know any black teachers? And I was like, well, I know one, and that was like from years ago. So yeah, it's just I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
There are some of the people on the Padlet. What was that one called? There are people that you can get in virtually, which will give you obviously a wider field of people to come in. I think it was Primary Futures, who you can request a virtual visitor, which can also count to this. But that might be your way to get around the fact that we are in the Southwest and it's not the most ethically diverse place in the world. So if you want, you know, someone from, actually I want some international speakers, I want people who weren't born in rural England coming in that. So that might be a way to do that. But that's Primary Futures on the Padlet as well. That's free as well, but you can get a virtual guest from volunteers again that are from all over the country. But again, if you put your request in that you're looking to promote diversity, that should help.
Brilliant, thank you.
Obviously we can't promise that you're going to get everything you want, but we'll certainly try and help.
Aim high.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of virtual. It does mean that you can do that, and we can have more diverse employers as well, like things that just don't happen down here, like the bigger companies that aren't in the Southwest, we can access. Anybody else got any questions? I won't make the session last an hour if we don't have an hour's worth of questions, but please do ask if there's anything else we can help you with. I will try and do another one of these sessions next year. No problem, Bryony. Again, it's almost impossible to find a date that everyone can make. It turns out what I've learned is after school time is very busy for most people. It seems like there's a lot of meetings and clubs and parents' evenings and things that happen. Someone got pulled in because they just had the Ofsted call. No one leaves that just before Christmas today. So but thank you for coming. I hope you find it helpful. Please do contact me with any questions and I'll see what I can do to help. But thank you for all of what you've done so far. I know teaching is a busy job, so really appreciate all the effort that you have already put into this. And again, we'll keep it simple, make it work for you and work for your school. Okay, does that sound okay? Yeah, thanks so much for your time. It's good to see you. And yeah, I'll send out these slides and link to the Padlet probably tomorrow. You're right, Fiona, like you're trying to talk. It's all right. All right, thank you everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony.
See you soon.
Thanks everyone.
No
nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.